You have found Season 3, Episode 15 of the Great American Stampin' Show, in which Shannon, that's me, makes a card that is very similar to a representation of herself. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to show you this card today. But first, congratulations to Jody, who won last week. I did a card that I loved and was really proud of, and I happen to have that here to show you again. This is my tile card that was made right after I returned from a trip to Portugal, where there were all of these beautiful doors and beautiful tiles, and I still look at that card and think it's so pretty and unique. So if you want to see that video, you can always find that in my Great American Stampin' Show playlist. And we are launching one video every week as we work through the card sketches on page 22 of the annual catalog. So we've done 14, this is 15, and we've got, I don't know, a few more to do. Now, you will also want to sign up for my mailing list because we are sending out Christmas card tutorials, one each week for 12 weeks. And there are several left, so you can still get in on the fun there. So you'll find the link to sign up for my mailing list in the description below, along with the links to my competitors' videos. Jody, Julie, and Brandy will show you their best of episode 15, sketch 15. And guess what? You are the boss. You get to choose who's the best. All you got to do is like that video with a thumbs up. I hope it's mine. I hope I can win your vote. But you know what? It's up to you. So I'm bringing my best, and you get to decide who you're going to vote for. Let's go. What in the world will Shannon be using to make a card that is a representation of herself? You might be wondering, why is Shannon talking in the third person? Is another question you might be wondering. There's no answer for that one. But the stamp set that I'm using for this card is Perfect Pairs. This is a pretty new stamp set, and if you like it, you better get it. It's an online exclusive, so those are never guaranteed for a certain amount of time. I'll link it in the description of this video so you can snag it from my store. But look at how cute. There's milk and cookies with a little cow, a puzzle piece that you could make a whole fun puzzle. But of course, the most beautiful part and the reason that I bought this stamp set, the salt and pepper shaker. Now, if you know me, you know that I am a saltaholic, and it just so happens that I have a salt shaker here in my stamping area. I didn't even have to go get it from the kitchen. It lives here, and I'll be using that today. In addition, I'll be using a couple of the dies from Stylish Shapes. This is basic white. This is some watercolor paper, a little bit of Pretty Peacock, a little bit of Coastal Cabana, Pretty Peacock Ink, VersaMark, Memento, and Real Red. I've got a couple different pieces. I'm using quite a bit of cardstock on this, and you'll see why. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to be using just those items and just creating something really fun. So let's see. I'm going to start by die cutting. So I'm going to die cut this label, and then I need to die cut my watercolor paper with this circle. All right, that's done. And I forgot to mention I'm also using just a little bit of Blueberry Bushel. These two colors are going to be an awesome watercolor wash. If I'm making a card that's a representation of myself, it's going to have watercoloring on it. So red, that's a huge, that's one of my signature colors. Watercoloring, salt and pepper shakers, primarily salt. Those are the important parts of this card. Okay, so I've got water here, but I also have my water painter, which has water in it. I'm just gonna open these up and get ready for a little watercolor wash. As you can see, it's not a very big piece. And this is going to act as a background for the salt and pepper shaker. So it's just kind of a nice watercolor wash back there. Okay, so I'm going to just start by covering all of it. Well, my water painter is a little bit blue still from making my prototype. So let's see, I'm going to try to get a little bit more of that out of there. Not that it matters because I'm using the same color, but just so it doesn't really affect. So you're not wondering how much that has affected the the color. Okay, there we go. We've got some nice color laid down on this piece of watercolor paper. Let's see if I can catch the glare of the light so you can see how much. Yep, it's pretty much covered, but not completely solid. Like there's splotches here and there, and that's okay. Okay, now I'm going to drop a couple drops on my pretty peacock and just pretty much cover that. And often with watercoloring, the watercolor paper will curl a little bit. So I'm holding my finger there to kind of keep it in place. Okay, now see, I'm not doing swiping across like that because I want it to be a little more splotchy. And then some of the edges aren't covered and a little bit of white space there. That's all good. I like that. That makes it look like a true natural watercolored look. Okay, now I'm going to drip a little bit more water on my what is this color? Blueberry Bushel. I want to have kind of a dark center. So I'm just going to come in here and add a little bit of darker blue right here. And then the colors are going to kind of merge a little bit, and that's okay. Like maybe I'll even drop some water right in the middle there to kind of like move that color around a little bit. But if it doesn't stay flat, that color will really move around. So got to watch that and be a little bit careful. Okay, that's looking good. I'm going to spread that out a little bit. And I like that the colors are merging together too. So you can see it's becoming a really nice blue-green. Fun. Okay, we're ready to move on to the next step, which is salt. I'm going to salt this. What? That's crazy. I love this technique. So really what's going to happen is the salt is going to suck up some of the color and it will give much more of a kind of splotchy look. So I'll just go ahead and shake the salt right on there. I'm going to try to get, well, okay, colored it incredibly solid. I wanted to get a little more in the darker blue, but it's kind of everywhere. But that's okay. You'll see when it dries how cool it looks. Now I'm just kind of like cleaning this up, and we've got to wait for that to dry. You can use your heat tool, but I like it to dry naturally if I have time to wait. So while it's drying, I'm going to set it aside and work on the other parts of the card. Okay, we're ready now for some Memento. And I've got both the salt and pepper on this block. And I'll just stamp them like so. So cute. These are going to get fussy cut out so they can just be stamped anywhere. And then there's the little face. So let's give each of these a little face. Aww. Salt and pepper shakers as people. This is, maybe I was a salt shaker in another life. You know, that really wouldn't surprise me. Okay, let's see. That's done. And now one more little thing I want to do is, so the greeting that I'm going to be using on this is "You complete me." So this is like a love card, and that's one reason also that I'm using real red. But this is a couple, and so in my mind, because of me and my love for salt, this is the lady. So I'm going to give her some eyelashes. Just kind of flare those up on the side a little bit. Just a couple on each side. Well, that side looks a lot better than this one, so add one more. Oh, perfect. Okay, that's just a really fine tip pen. Actually, it's a cat pen. I don't even know. I got that on Amazon or something. Hilarious. Okay, and then last step. I've got my real red marker. Do I? Where is it? I've got to grab it from my markers. Okay, real red marker. You can use Stampin' Blends, but you don't need it really. And so I'm just going to draw a little striped line across like that. The same on both. Next, I've got my pretty peacock label, and I'm going to emboss this with white and my greeting. So run my embossing buddy over it. And now VersaMark for "You complete me." All right, that's looking awesome. Now, just as a way of a little bit of ornamentation, I grabbed a little piece of Coastal Cabana, and I'm going to just add this below like that. So it's kind of sitting on that a little bit. And I think I'll cut these on a diagonal like so. Moving on to the card base. I have cut this at 5.5 by 11. And I wrote the measurements here just in case you want to see those. Let's see, it's a little off camera, so I'll move my camera. There we go. 5.5 by 11. So you can only get one out of each piece of cardstock. So keep that in mind, but it's worth it because this is a really cool, fun fold. And then I'm going to score at 1 1/4, 5.5, and 9 1/4. So 3 different folds instead of the usual 1 fold on a card. My friend and fellow demonstrator, Peggy Merwin, she sent me a birthday card last year that was this template. And I've been wanting to make it for a while because my birthday's in May, so it's been a while. So I'm finally making it. Okay, 5.5 is the second score line. And when you go this direction, the paper seems to really resist. So you got to get a really nice score in there to really kind of break those fibers apart. All right, so 1 1/4, 5.5, 9 1/4 lays together like so. Okay, so now you can see it's kind of like a, I don't know, ripple. I'm sure this phone fold has a name. I didn't look it up. Double layer ripple, something like that. Now to ornament this a little bit, I've got another piece of real red. And this one is also, is it 5.5? Yeah, also 5.5 by I think like 6 or 6.5. Almost 7. And I'm going to use an embossing folder on this and just put it through all at the same time and then cut it up into pieces to cover these different panels. So the birchwood, boy, there's salt everywhere. It's so funny. Birchwood embossing folder. It's a really cool one. I really like that. This is the first time I've used it. So now I'm going to cut up these panels, and I should have written these here too. But what I'm going to need is a 1-inch panel, a 3.5 inch panel, and a 1.5 inch panel. 3.5, it might be 3 1/4. 3 1/4, let me double check that. Nope, 3.5 is right. Okay, so I'm just going to cut these up. I want that one on that end. So let's see, I'm going to do 1 inches. Can you see that? Am I off my camera? Can see it pretty well. So there's 1 inch, 1 1/4, and finally 3.5. I'm going to go from this side though, because see how that it has that big knot there? I want to make sure I keep all of that. So I'm just flipping it over and chopping it. Now I realized as I've just cut these, they need to be 5 1/4, and I cut them at 5.5. So all 3 of these now need to be trimmed down to 5 1/4. Time to assemble. So I've got my Seal Plus adhesive, which is amazing for a job like this. The multi-purpose adhesive would also, the liquid, would also work great. But I'm going to just go with this. Okay, so this goes on the bigger panel. I cut it the wrong size, but you know what? That's okay. I'm just going to have it closer to this end here because that's going to be covered up. Is this the right size? Yes, it is. So that one must have been 1.5. Oh, I did put 1.5, but I only cut it at 1 1/4, right? You know what I always say? Do what I say, not what I do. Because half the time I say the right thing and I do something different. Too funny. You know, y'all should try doing a live video because when you're thinking and doing at the same time, you never know what's going to happen. It's a mystery, but there we have it, okay? So that's a lot of layers of cardstock. It's pretty thick, but I'm sure you could still send it for 1 stamp. Don't worry about that. But I wanted to give it something. There's a lot of layers, so it's kind of a lot to look at, but I wanted to give it something just a little bit more, a little bit more interest. Okay, so things are looking good. Let's bring this back in here and see how it's doing. Okay, it's looking really cool. Can you see that? How it's got like this dark focal point here. And it's drying. The salt is helping it dry, but it's not all the way dry yet. So I need to wait a little bit longer. Okay, I think that this is finally ready, so it's all dry. I'm going to scrape the salt off, and this is so cool. You can see that a little, and I'm okay with a little bit of the salt being left behind. It does take on the color of the water, so it can just kind of stay there, and it feels a little rough. I love that. In addition to that, you can see where the salt was. It's kind of splotchy now. And in addition to that, it's a little bit shimmery because the salt just leaves behind a little bit of shine. Now, you know, I mean, if it's not shimmery enough, you can always add Wink of Stella. I like that there because it just adds a little bit of something. So I'm going to leave it. Okay, now ready to assemble this all together. And now I realize I didn't even talk about the template. Oh my goodness. What is happening? What template is Shannon doing today? It's this one right here. Number 15. So regular card with a big old circle and then just a small greeting kind of off to the right. So here you go. I'm following the template pretty closely. I'm going to stick this down to these first two layers, and then it will hold this layer in place. So I'm going to flip this over an extra one if needed. But I don't want to touch this first flap, just the other two. So let's see, I'm going to put it towards the top. So there we go. Did that work? Yes, it did. So the flap pops open, and then I can tuck it under to keep the card closed. So fun. Another option would be to make a belly band, but I really like the way this looks. Okay, let's assemble and add all these little pieces. Okay, we've got our salt and pepper shakers, but before I put those down, I've got to kind of anticipate where this is going to go. I think could go right here, but I think I'm going to do it right there. So for our little salt and pepper, they're going to need to be just a bit higher, like this. And since this is kind of a love card, they're going to be leaning in towards each other, like that. Aw, adorable. And now add the greeting. I've got the dimensionals on that, so those will just, the dimensionals will just stick down to the circle piece only. Let's see, did I do that right? Yep, still pops open. Wonderful. And now for my final little embellishment. I've got a little piece of gingham, a little gingham bow. Oh, I love this ribbon. So of course had to add it on the card that was representing me. And let's see. Oh, it looks really cute right there, but then it might get in the way of that flap. Could just go on the flap. I think I'll put it right here, and that would be good. Okay, now on second thought, I think this needs a little bit more. This is the first time I've done, my prototype didn't look exactly like this. So you know what? I'm just still figuring it out. And guess what? I'm dying to know what you think. So give me a thumbs up if you like this. And that's how I will know. You have through Sunday night to vote, and I've got some of these tinsel gems that I'm just adding here. I don't know, where should I put these? This is like always a big challenge for me to know where to put things. I try not to overthink it too much, but sometimes that happens anyway. Okay, so there's a few little tinsel gems. I don't know, we'll leave it there. But lastly, I think I'm gonna add a little bit of Wink of Stella right here. Ooh, that's really gold. I want it to be a little more shimmery, so let's spread that out a little bit. And I'm squeezing this just to make it a little more watery, and I'm gonna make my salt shimmery. That makes sense, right? That if it's salt, it would have a little bit of shimmer to it. A little bit of sparkle for our little salty lady right here. All right, I'm thinking this card is finished. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. You might want to subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Regardless, thank you so much for watching, and check back next week. We'll be back for the next round. Okay, see you then. Bye-bye.